Welcome to the Leo Training Podcast with Joe DeLeo. You'll hear in-depth interviews and tips from world-class athletes, coaches, and industry-leading experts to help you train smarter and improve at what you love to do. Train smarter, get stronger, move better, race faster. Here's your host, Joe DeLeo.
We're back with episode 60 of the Leo Training Podcast, and this week's episode features two guests, both coaches at 5 Points Academy in New York City. Our first guest is Emily Bearden. Emily first became interested in personal training while earning a BFA in Dance and Choreography, a course of study that required mastery of kinesiology, physiology, anatomy, and dynamic alignment. Emily is also an internationally ranked competitive Thai boxer, holding the professional world champion belt in Muay Thai for the WKA, 2 US championship belts, and was a member of the US team to the International Muay Thai Federation Amateur Championships in Bangkok, Thailand. Our second guest is Steve Millis, coach and owner of 5 Points Academy. Steve Millis has competitive and coaching experience in Muay Thai spanning more than 2 decades. As a competitor, he won a bronze medal representing the United States at the International Amateur Muay Thai Federation World Championships in Bangkok, Thailand. After turning professional, Steve captured the World Kickboxing Association and International Sport Kickboxing Association US Champion belts, as well as the Intercontinental Champion title for the US Muay Thai Association, battling current and former world champions in North America, Europe, and Asia. He retired with a professional record of 20 wins, 8 losses, and 2 draws. So you're probably wondering why I have 2 coaches who specialize in fighting on the show. Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Steve and Emily back in November 2016, assisting for a StrongFirst Level 1 Kettlebell certification. And I really love the approach that they take at 5 Points Academy, and was thrilled to have them on the show and talk about their approach to training their fighters and how they integrate kettlebell, bodyweight, and the barbell into their training to bring resiliency and strength to their athletes. So without further ado, let's roll to this brand new episode with Steve and Emily. Steve Millis and Emily Bearden, welcome to the Leo Training Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on to the show and doing this a second time. You guys being awesome sports about this. So looking forward to chatting with you again over the next hour or so.
No, we're glad to do it, and happy to do it twice. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So for those in the audience that don't know, I met Steve and Emily back in November.
Sure.
When I helped assist at a StrongFirst Level 1 Kettlebell certification they hosted at 5 Points Academy in New York City. So I'd love for you guys to both introduce yourselves and talk about your respective backgrounds, but also talk about, 5 Points Academy, what kind of makes it a little bit different in the strength and conditioning and fighting community and your approach that you take there.
Cool. Why don't you go first?
You go first, because you say all the best stuff.
Okay, you just want to steal my line. All right. So my name's Steve Millis. I'm one of 3 owners here at 5 Points. I have 2 working partners as well. My background was in Thai boxing. I was a professional fighter for about 20 years, then transitioned with some overlap into coaching and training. After I had stopped fighting and actually a little bit into my coaching, after 5 Points had already opened, I was exposed to kettlebells and was excited to introduce those as a component. And then every time I learned something new from the StrongFirst community, whether it's bells, barbell, body weight, working with FMS stuff, I try and integrate that here as well. And that's my story. What's yours?
Mm-hmm. I also was a Thai fighter, and I've been under Steve Millis and Simon Burgess here at 5 Points since, I guess, 98.
Since before we opened.
Since before 5 Points was 5 Points.
That's right.
Awesome.
And so I did that for quite a few years, but I also gained quite a few injuries over time. And so I had one of the biggest injuries in my career, and Steve used kettlebells to help me rehab back from it, and then that's sort of how I got introduced into kettlebells, and I decided I wanted to learn more, and so I've been with them. I guess about 2009, 2010, I started, with level 1, level 2. I've done the Barbell cert, which I really enjoyed. And that's it. I'm one of the trainers here at 5 Points.
Awesome. Emily, what was the injury that you incurred?
The injury that really sidelined me at that time was a stress fracture in T1, which is not common. Usually stress fractures in the spine are in the lumbar curve. But because of my training, I overtrained a lot.
A lot.
And I just didn't stop. I was biking, I was running. So I wouldn't say that it came from fighting. I think it came from everything that I was putting my body through. And so when I did see a physical therapist for it, and they said there's no way I'd be able to fight again. Just left me crying on the table, and then crying to Steve. And he said, well, screw that. We're going to get you back into the ring. And that's when he started working with me with, we did the Turkish get-up without any weight. He got into the deadlift, kettlebell deadlift. And we really just sort of stuck with that and built like a really good base. He could probably talk to you more about the training because I just do what I'm told.
With a lot of back talk.
Well, so side question. So when did what year did the injury occur? And then I guess how long was the rehab going before you kind of felt like you were in a good enough place to start fighting again?
When I fought Petra, I had the injury. Like 2008.
Yeah, maybe 2009.
Okay. All right.
And so after that diagnosis, I did have a fight that I was set up for, and I did have to do it. Well, I didn't have to, but I was defending my world title, and so I did do it anyways because, the doctor did say it's not going to get any worse. It's just going to be quite painful. But with the adrenaline rush, and I did take that entire week off of training before the fight, and then night of, I just, went for it, and I kept the title. And then after that, I think I did absolutely nothing for 8 weeks. So no biking, no running, no training, just walking. And then that's when Steve started his work. And I was back in the ring. Was it within the year? I can't remember if it came after. Was it within the year? I would say. And I fought. I have not had any pain. I fought a bunch of times after that, and I've never experienced pain in that area of the body.
That's awesome. Outstanding.
So, which kind of might bring us to something that may be interesting to other people and is to me. So that sounds horrid, right? So she had this stress fracture and she went in and did the fight anyway. But while that injury might have been more egregious, that's not uncommon. In fact, I would say traditionally and very much still today, it's very common that a fighter goes in with some sort of injury because the training very often isn't terribly intelligent. It's just train. And then you go in and do your fight. So people, and then there's the impact component as well, right, where you are hitting and kicking each other. So it's not uncommon for fighters to go in with something wrong. In fact, when a fighter will go into a fight with nothing hurt of any sort, they're very often like, wow, this is kind of weird. And what I will say is, quite aside from the training protocols themselves, that the idea that I've gotten from Pavel and StrongFirst that's kind of stupid and ridiculous has informed kind of our training here, where we try and be a little more sensible about the training itself, so our fighters are going in prepared and unhurt most of the time.
Right. And that's probably like a real fine balance, because in training, there's going to be some sparring where there's full contact going on. So it kind of comes with the sport. You're going to have a little bit of that. So they're not going to be 100% fresh like you're talking about. But before we kind of move into the training piece and what you guys do at 5 Points, Steve, did you want to share anything about like any of your own injuries that you kind of experienced throughout your career, your fighting career?
Sure. And let me say that as a much older man looking back, I can't believe how stupid I was, but that's all right. And I will also say that when I discovered Pavel and his teaching on the bells, that it was really cool to get stronger and have all these training ideas. But what was really amazing to me is that it fixed all these problems that I had acquired over the years and had left me basically kind of broken and not really able to do what I like to do. I mean, I was in pain all the time. My mobility was low. I could barely throw a punch. I was hurting. And part of that is just being in the posture of the sport for 20 some years and not doing anything to counteract that. The same repetitive motions and not doing anything in the other direction. But then part of that too is being hurt and not being smart enough to take the time to recover properly. So I would say, let's see. I mean, I broke the hand a bunch of times, but that's a very common injury, and you just kind of work around that. What I would say is I never, ever, ever while I was fighting gave it time to heal properly. So it would break every fight just because it'd be good for a round or two, and then I'd be done. And that's just, me being stupid and my trainer at the time maybe not looking out for my best interests, possibly. Let's see. Broken ribs. And then, of course, I went to overhead work immediately, which wasn't very smart. So now I have this really, it's like I have another little limb sticking out where the rib is. But it's cool. You can punch people with it. I had a fractured iliac crest from the knee.
You hit?
Yeah, that was my hip, my fractured iliac crest, which I rode to the hospital to check out.
On his bicycle after the fights.
Let's see.
So
anything else?
You took yourself to the hospital after the injury?
Yeah, because I was young and stupid. Let's see. I mean, those might be the biggest ones. That's you pull things and do things, but those are the ones that stick in my head.
Okay.
And I will say that between those and training all day for a lot of years, I was a mess. And being stronger at 51 than I was at 20 or 30 or whatever is great, but being able to move better is even better. So I really appreciate that part of the training.
No, absolutely. So, and you both have gotten to a point now where not only, like you said, you're stronger, but the movement quality is better, and you're both out of pain. You don't have any pain.
Who said that?
Well, I would say that I can be a weatherman. I can tell when there's going to be a storm because things. And I would say that our pain is significantly less, and we're not adding to it, and we definitely move better. But there's a legacy of the silliness that we did. That is for sure.
Okay.
Now, but let me say, I don't want to discourage anyone from doing Muay Thai because it's an amazing, amazing sport and a great way to be fit and strong. And it changed my life, and I owe pretty much where I'm at to it. But one should be smart about it. That's what I would say.
Excellent. So that's a perfect segue into kind of the next area. So let's talk about how both of your experiences has shaped your coaching style and the training and philosophy at 5 Points Academy.
Go ahead, Steve.
So the aside here is I rarely talk, and Emily usually does, and she's making me do everything here today. All right. So we started out as a martial arts school, and we also had a gym component, just because one of my partners, he runs a judo program for us, but he also has a background in strength training, personal training. But we were primarily a martial arts school. That was like what 90%, 95% of our members did, and that's what our thing was all about. And we did a very traditional sort of training, which we still do in terms of Muay Thai. I'm actually very proud of that. We stay current with what's going on in Thailand. We bring active trainers over. We have fighters go back and forth. So we're staying pretty much up to date with what's going on with the sport and the martial art as it develops in Thailand. And
that's awesome.
With really current trainers, which I think is a great advantage for our fighters. And it's great for me because it doesn't get stale for me. I'm always learning stuff. It's fantastic. That being said, when I discovered kettlebells and hard style, we got bells. Actually, I assisted at a level 1 in Philadelphia, rented a van.
Yeah, that was my certification.
Right, loaded the van up far beyond what any safety standard was, and drove back very slowly on the curves. So that's how we got our first big shipment of bells. So I didn't have to pay shipping on it. So we started using them primarily for us. I liked using them. Emily liked using them. Some of the other fighters and trainers liked using them. But that was it. And then I don't know exactly how it happened, but we said, well, we should maybe do a class. And the class was very popular. And I would say now we have, well, I wouldn't say we do. We have kettlebell classes every day of the week, several times a day. And we have a large component of the gym. You've been here. It's more than just a martial arts school. We have a large kettlebell training area, a large barbell training area. I would say that the strength training component of the gym is, there's people, 30% of the people here are here just for that. And we have people come just for the kettlebell stuff, which is, it's nice. They all kind of feed off each other. I would say that having, we have a very active fight team. Although I would say that, 90% of people who train don't fight. They're just here to train because they like the art, and it's a great way for them to exercise and be fit. But I would say having this active fight team kind of gives a good vibe to the place. And in turn, everyone trains really hard and really smart. And everybody helps the fighters, and the fighters help everybody. And the martial arts people take the kettlebell classes, and we get people who come to start with just bells, and they end up in the martial arts classes. So it all really works well together.
No, that's really fantastic. And having visited 5 Points in person, one of the coolest things is just the way that the building is laid out. So you walk in the front door, and you can do your strength and conditioning with the kettlebells right up on the first floor, and then you can go into the basement, and you have some cardiovascular equipment, rowing machines, and treadmills, and then the barbell stations, and then you have a bunch of open floor space where you can do sparring and fighting techniques and training there. But I love the ability to just kind of move seamlessly between those two environments very quickly.
Yeah, thank you. We're really happy with this space, just because, even though it's an upstairs and a downstairs, the downstairs itself is like multi-leveled. So you have defined areas for stuff, but you can flow from one to the next. Yeah, we were really lucky to find this spot.
Yeah, no, it's great, and that's an important point, because it gives you that kind of privacy, so you can really have the focus, but it's close enough where, again, it's like you're just literally taking 10 to 15 steps to move to sort of the next area within the facility, which is great.
I really like it.
Awesome. So did you guys want to talk about specific programming that you kind of integrate on the strength and conditioning side with the trainers, or any type of strength skills that you emphasize or feel are particularly important for a fighter?
I think swings and get-ups are good for everybody, fighter or not fighter, everybody. So especially in our group classes, there are always swings and components of the get-up. Every class won't always have get-ups per se, but you break it and segment it. And we'll also put a squat, right? So you get a hinge, a squat, and lots of carries. For specific programming for fighters, it really depends on what they really need. The strength training tools are versatile, and it's not a one one program fits everybody sort of thing.
Sure.
Pavel's been really nice in sending stuff for us to try out, both Emily and myself personally, and with some of the fighters. So we have a whole lot of different things going on, but it all comes back to the same sort of StrongFirst training principles in the end. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there, Emily, is there anything that you think is particularly worth emphasizing to counteract some of the effects of being in that fighting posture?
Yeah, definitely. Opening the thoracic area, and but also we definitely train smarter. We don't beat ourselves, with overtraining, and we have learned from our mistakes, which is a good thing. So we try to keep the fighters and the students and everybody safe, and we try. It's hard because you have to hold people back from overtraining, and you try to teach them things that you've learned, like throughout your career, and keep them safe, but still have them feel like they are training hard and they're doing what they should be doing, but in a safe manner.
Yeah, I would say we've got two things encouraging people here to be less than intelligent in their training. One is it's New York, and the city's full of type A people to begin with. And then the second thing is people who are attracted to combat sports, fighting, martial arts, generally speaking, are a little more type A as well. So they're always willing to work hard. Sometimes it's hard to get them to work smart.
Right. So kind of pulling back the reins a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about StrongFirst, because I forgot to add on, is everything that they do is getting back to your neutral posture. So just the plank, getting back into that long spine, tall spine, just into a neutral position. Whereas, in fighting, you're rounded. You're rounded over. So for years, I was like the hunchback. And now just trying to stand tall and trying to open up the thoracic and pushing down into the floor, and so all the StrongFirst movements do that. There's nothing that is rounded or so enough that you work within your weight capacity of what you should be doing, not trying to struggle to get heavier weights up with bad form.
No, absolutely. That's such a huge critical point is getting back to that neutral posture, and that's a big component of counteracting some of the effects of the rolling stroke as well too, because you're constantly getting into a position of flexion where you're getting the shoulders in front of the hips, and unfortunately with that sport you're doing it from a seated position, so it just let's just compound all the kind of the bad elements of it. So those are kind of two things that kind of link between fighting and rowing, is that trying to counteract the effects of that bad posture. One of the other things that I wanted to make sure that we touched on was one is getting into the importance of why endurance is a necessary component for a fighter, because the rounds are shorter. 3 minutes, correct?
For professionals, yes, 3 minutes.
So 3 minutes. So why would I want to do a long, lower intensity cardiovascular training session like a run or row or bike or something like that when I'm only, quote unquote, working at a high, hard, intense level for 3 minutes at a time?
Because you're not done after that 3 minutes is the easy answer. It goes on. And so so FMS, right? You build your base,
yes.
Right? So that's what you're doing. You're building a good, solid, strong aerobic base. And the reason you do it is because it doesn't matter how skillful or strong you are. If you're exhausted and can't keep your hands up, And the other guy could be much worse than you, but is fresh and fit after 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. You're going to lose. And I've said this before, that I've seen a really skillful person lose to a clearly less skilled person just because the skilled person didn't do their road work and they're tired. And it's really tragic. It's heartbreaking. And there's no reason for it. It's silly. And again, long is relative, right? It's not like marathon training.
Right.
So anybody, here's the deal. If you want to fight, then you're going to make the time to do your road work. You're going to do your cardio. And it's not that big a deal. It's, maybe 30 minutes a day, 4 or 5 times a week. That's not that big in the grand scheme of things. And there's no downside to that, right? It's going to help everything else. If your aerobic base is solid, then everything else will be too. And Emily likes to see people do it just because it's a mental grind for them, right?
Yeah, definitely. We talked about this before. The running on those not long runs. Well, I used to do long runs because I enjoyed them, but long runs meaning 5-6 miles. That's not long to a runner, but that's when the mental preparation takes place. That's when you can zone out and you go through the fight in your head. You can focus on what you're going to do, and you play the fight out in your head. And I would play the fight out for 3 minutes. And then for a minute, I would take off if you're in the corner for a minute. And then you would play the fight out in your head, the next 3 minutes. And so it was the perfect time for me to get that mental strength, because running was easy. You just put one foot down in front of the other. You didn't have to really focus so much on form I would do that on the treadmill, actually, not so much the New York City streets. But yeah, so it's my favorite thing to do.
No, that's great, and I love the point you made there too, because there's clearly a physical benefit, but you're also taking that time during that training run to really focus on visualization. Going through sort of how you want to execute during the fight, mentally, how it's going to unfold, how you're going to move, and maybe connect against the other fighter, or move throughout the floor space in the ring. So those types of things, and that's an invaluable part for any athlete in any sport, is the visualization component. So that's really cool to see that how you're integrating that into the training while you're doing a physical component to it too. Awesome. Emily, did you want to touch on your article that you had written about training for a half marathon, doing strength training?
Sure. Yeah, I did. A couple years ago, I like to run half marathons and marathons for fun. I've always been a runner. I've always enjoyed any distance, because more of the mental aspects of it. You could zone out. You could think about what you're going to do in life. So it's not necessarily you have to think of fighting all the time. But so I would often sign up for marathons, half marathons, and I did one year, and I had been battling with a hip injury, and back then I still did not take care of myself, and I would just push through injuries, and I would say, well, I signed up for this thing, I'm going to do it anyways. But during the course of training for it, I wasn't able to run at all. So I stuck on Steve and I had written a program, knowing that we were doing this half marathon. And so we wrote a program to follow. And I just stayed on the strength training aspect of it. And I don't even think I thought I was going to do the half. I think I thought, well, I'll go with my friend to the start line, and then I'll either run it or not, or I'll run half of it. And it's New York. You can get on the subway and get home, in 2 minutes. So So the day, comes, and I go to the start line, and again, in my head, I don't put any pressure on myself to do this. But I started to take it little bits at a time. I've run this particular race often enough that I know the course. And I said, okay, I'm going to get to here and then I'll stop. And then I'll get to here and I'll stop. But as I was running, I realized that I was strong enough to do it, that even though I hadn't run, I hadn't put in the mileage, my body does know how to run because I have run for many, many years. But the weight training is really what kept me in shape and what kept me strong enough to pull myself through this half marathon at a pretty respectable time. And I don't think it was much different, actually, from my times before where I had trained with running. And it's not that I would say that that's for everybody. I'm not saying like, oh, you guys don't run for, your halves. And I certainly would not say that for a full marathon, because that's a completely different ballgame. I mean, your body needs to know the hard pounding, the length of time that you're out there. Your body does need to get used to that. The half for me was quick enough and short enough that I didn't need to have, that constant pounding, that training for that, per se.
Right. And because of the strength work, the structural integrity was really, really, you had a great foundation because of that.
Exactly.
Excellent. Awesome. Do you guys want to chat a little bit about diet and vegetarian/vegan a little bit?
Vegan.
Sure. Why not?
Cool.
So I've been vegan for about 25 years. When I was doing it as a fighter, people thought I was insane. But I felt very good and I felt strong and I had a pretty successful career, so it worked for me. What I found is...
now, just to kind of provide context, so you were vegan at a time when it was kind of like pretty much, I wouldn't say new, but like you were one of very few people doing it. So
yes, I'm old, Joseph. That's true.
No.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And yes, it was not common, and in particular was not common among athletes, and certainly not among fighting sports athletes, because it was about the protein and in particular the beef. But it worked for me. I felt good. I never had trouble making weight. I was full of energy, and the odd thing is that now there are an increasing number of athletes of all types. From fighting sports athletes to Olympic lifters. We were lucky Kendrick Lamar came in. Stopped by from the US Olympic team. He's vegan. A lot of our fighters, a lot of fighters around, and they found that they feel strong, energetic, healthy, and it really does help with not blowing up and putting on extra pounds, which is a big part of being a fighter. They're by weight class, so there you go.
Right, super important. So huge health benefits as well, but easy to maintain your fighting weight for when you need to make it and weigh in, but also being able to recover quickly in between training sessions and fights.
Yeah, feeling energetic and strong and peppy and good. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And Emily has been for years and years as well.
Yeah, so I stopped eating meat 25 years ago. And so back then I was in high school and I wasn't really thinking of what it would do for me performance-wise. Mm-hmm. I did start just out of the compassion reasoning, because of the life of animals. And but then as I was getting older, I started to realize, and it's not like I sought out milk and cheese, but it would be like in certain things. I mean, I would be primarily vegetarian or primarily vegan, but I never said no. Like if somebody wanted ice cream, I would go get ice cream. So And then a couple of years ago, I started realizing how, like, the inflammation in my body and how bad I went through a struggle with a lot of stomach issues, how bad it made me feel. And I started to realize, like, when I was on my fight diet, I never had any of these issues. And that fight diet was, for me, very, very strict. And it was very bland. And it was very simple. And I didn't have ice cream. I didn't have cheese because, I had to make sure my weight was correct. And I thought, well, what's different now? And I realized I was sneaking in these little things. And so I went vegan a few years ago, and it's really helped. My energy level is sustained throughout the day. I don't get tired. I do believe that there's also sort of that mental aspect of it. Depressed might be too strong of a word to use, but my emotions are not a roller coaster. I say that. Steve might say something different, but, and the inflammation in my body is gone.
Right.
And that's definitely a key component for me.
No, that's great. I've been eating. I still eat meat, but I've been eating more and more vegetables and fruits. And one of the key benefits I noticed is that not only is the energy level higher throughout the day, but it is more level and sustained. So it doesn't like kind of peak. It gets very high and then drop off like the crashes and everything. It just seems to be a nice, long, steady burn in a good way.
You don't feel like you need a nap after lunch.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The peak comes in the morning when and I know Steve will appreciate this when I have that nice hot cup of coffee.
Gotta have it.
That's right.
And I think I cut coffee, not out completely, but when I made these changes in my diet, I because of all my stomach issues and such, I did have to cut coffee out from my daytime. So I have 1 cup in the morning when I wake up at 4:00, and then that's it. I can't do more than that a day, but I don't need it. Right. And I think I was constantly chasing, like, I was putting, dairy into my body, and then I was tired. So then I would have coffee to get me back up. And then, so I was just, my system was so out of whack, and it couldn't keep up with what I was trying to demand it to do.
Right. Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. I think we covered all the topics that we had down. Is there anything else?
You are an on-point moderator. Let me tell you.
Thank you. I try. It's fun. It's good. I just want to make sure we're leaving no stones unturned, so to speak.
We talked about bells and Muay Thai. We're good, and food. There you go.
Awesome.
I will say this.
Sure.
Just very quickly, Emily talked about her fight diet and being bland, and that's true. You want to be careful about salt and stuff like that, but that is not an indicator of normal eating, right? Mm-hmm. There's no requirement that a vegan diet be bland. I live on chili peppers and hot sauce, right? I love the spice, so
my food. Steve, I love it, man.
My food is not bland; it's just not.
Sorry, right? Wait, I meant to go back and say why it was so bland. I have a problem with sweets, and I would eat candy if I could. I would eat candy and sweets all day long. So when I had to be strict on a diet, I couldn't allow myself any leeway. I couldn't allow myself any choices. So for me, I had to make it like that. Otherwise, I would totally go off the wagon and eat things that were going to, not help me out in the long run. Now, my diets are not bland tasting at all. If they are, it's me being lazy and just eating a sweet potato. But I like to use spices too. I like to use different sauces. So...
There you go.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the spicy food. Spicy
right?
Food's good. Yes. Okay, so if you both don't have anything else to add, we can move into the rapid fire.
Awesome.
Sweet. Okay, so we'll start with Emily. So, given all of your knowledge and your current life experience, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself 15 years ago?
I would just say train smarter. I'm so happy. I was never on this course to be a fighter. I'm so happy though that my life changed in this direction, and I don't regret any of that. I'm very happy where I am in life, and I'm very happy the opportunities that I was afforded being a female in this sport. So the only thing I would say is I would have trained a little bit smarter and not crushed myself so much.
Steve.
Same question?
Yes, sir.
All right. I would say that, train smarter. And I would say that Brett Jones' little phrase is useful for anybody training for anything. Better is better. Right? Better is better. You don't always have to do it perfectly and be upset if it's not. If you're getting better all the time, then that's a good way to be.
Yes, absolutely. Love it. What's your favorite strength training exercise? If you had to pick one.
I like to snatch.
Nice. Emily.
Deadlift.
Yeah. How has your training changed today compared to 15 years ago?
I would say that it's more programmed. It's not so not so random. There's a lot more purpose to it, and it's definitely smarter. Mm-hmm. Definitely smarter.
Emily.
Same, but more efficient. Definitely.
So getting more return, but not necessarily you have to put in the long hours. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely. It's smarter.
Cool.
I don't grind myself into the floor every day. I'm in and out. I mean, our workouts in the morning, our training, our strength training, it's pretty quick. In the morning, I mean, going on about our day, and we have more time to hit the bag.
Excellent.
Yeah. As a quick aside, I would say that's actually been a clarification and a revelation for us when we're training people whose primary interest here is fighting or Muay Thai, right? That the strength training is not the goal. The strength training is a means to the end, right? Yes. So we don't want to crush them with that or take all the time with that. We want to make that as efficient and as much bang for the buck as we can to allow more time for skills training.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, you both touched on your injuries earlier in the show. What's one thing that high school athletes should be doing more of to complement their training and their health?
Multiple sports. They should stop specializing so much. That's my 2 cents. It's crazy to me to see. Look, I played sports in high school growing up, right? And they were multi-season sports. I played hockey, I played baseball, I played soccer. So I was doing stuff all year, but I was doing different things. And it's crazy to me to see kids start specializing in, middle school. They're playing soccer 12 months out of the year, going to camp, doing the same thing over and over and getting overuse injuries when they're 13 years old. It's absurd.
It's unnecessary completely.
And it can't be any fun. So
no.
They should be fun, right? They're kids.
Yes. Emily.
No surprise here. I was on the track team, indoor, outdoor, and I did cross country. So I ran all the time. And that's all I did. Year round, I would run. And I wish back then that I had learned the strength training that they, and also mobility. We did 5 minutes of stretching, maybe before, after, but I didn't pay attention to mobility work or strength work at all. So I'd like to see that included.
Excellent. What's your best tip to improve recovery post training session?
Sleep.
Yes. Who doesn't love sleep?
Yeah, sleep. And to be honest, I don't get enough of it. No one does, I don't think. But really, I think that's really the single best thing you can do to recover is just sleep.
Yeah. Awesome. Emily, any other sage advice to add?
Well, sleep is definitely number one. I think it goes back to diet. Eating a vegan diet after training helps reduce inflammation in the body. So I would say just keeping an eye on what you're putting in your body, and sleep to recover for sure.
Awesome. Okay, last couple questions here. Steve.
Yes.
What's your favorite meal?
Any spicy Thai curry.
Yes. Oh, man, I love curry. So good. Emily.
Definitely Thai food. I never know what I like. Here's the problem. I always go to restaurants with either Steve or my best friend who's Thai. And since I don't often know, but I just say, can you order me what I got last time that I really liked? Nice. So Steve could probably answer what it is that I eat a lot of from the Thai restaurants.
Actually, you're pretty varied palate. She'll eat pretty much everything at a Thai place.
Awesome. What is one book everyone should read? And it can be from any genre.
Does that have to be one, or can I give you two?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so greedy, right? So I think everyone who lives in the United States should read People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. And I think everyone, everywhere, should read Stuffed and Starved and prepare to be really worried and upset about the state of our food production and delivery system.
Great. I'll make sure to include those. I just jotted them down. I'll make sure to include those in the show notes.
Awesome. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you. Emily.
Well, like I said last time, I don't read much. But I did, I have read Fred Bishy's Your Powerful Journey, which is an excellent book. It's excellent because it's a short read. So for somebody like me, I don't have that big of an attention span. It's a short read, but it's also to the point. It's not fluffed up with anything, so it's very easy. It's very quick to get through. Yeah, Steve's recommendations are excellent.
Final question. Who have you studied or do you continue to study in your career to learn and improve and get better?
Anything that Pavel writes is worth reading.
Okay.
Immediately. And I'll tell you why. Number one, because it's excellent. And number two, because he makes it understandable to everybody. In the same way that the goal of StrongFirst is to take what your natural, really gifted athletes do and reverse engineer it, right? Mm-hmm. Pavel takes complicated things. Look, my background is martial arts, right? Not strength training, personal training, whatever. But I've developed an interest in that and a knowledge about that because he's taken things that can be complicated and he's made them approachable and understandable. So I don't think you can ever go wrong reading anything Pavel's written.
Awesome. Emily?
Definitely Pavel. But I've been fortunate enough to meet so many people, at these certifications that I take something from, each time I'm there either as a student, as an assistant. People like Valerie Headland. Is it Ricardo Nieves?
Nieves, yeah.
Nieves.
Yeah, smart man.
He was great to meet. Doug Nepidal. I've been at a cert with him. Phil Scarito, I would say, is my top go-to guy. If I don't want to bug Steve for like the 1,000th time about something.
Or when I don't know the answer, which does happen.
Then we definitely reach out to Phil a lot. He's extremely knowledgeable. But the thing about Phil is that he will share that knowledge. He also likes to learn from everybody. Whenever he does a certification here, he likes to bring different people. He does not like to work with the same people over and over, just so that he can open up his mind and in turn his student's mind. And if Phil doesn't know the answer to the question, he'll find it out for you before he gives you the answer.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Phil's been a huge resource for me as well. But I think that's such an important characteristic of any coach or practitioner is if you don't know the answer, like it's okay to say that.
I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And seeking out those who do, because it's all about helping each other learn and improve and get better.
Absolutely, it's very cool.
Sweet. Well, this has been a blast. I'm so glad we got to do it again.
Yeah, it was even more fun this time.
Good. I'm glad. I appreciate it. So just hang on the line. Let me give you a proper goodbye offline, and we'll wrap it up.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this brand new episode of the Leo Training Podcast. If you valued the content, I would greatly appreciate it if you would head on over to iTunes and drop in a 5-star review. Or please share it on your favorite social media network such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And be sure to tune in next week when I have renowned physical therapist and strength coach Charlie Weingroff on the Leo Training Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. Subscribe and get even more expert training tips at www.leotraining.io.